Welcome, everybody. Hope we're all okay out there. Here we are on Friday. We've had another great week of guests with our SJH sporting events. I've got it right today, Hurdy. You'll be glad for that one. You know, they keep telling me I'm saying it wrong, but, you know, I can only go off what I've been told. But SJH sporting events, fantastic as always. We've had some great guests on. Thank you to Simply Video as well for doing the streaming for us, and they're all in the background, hopefully helping us out. We did have a bit of a rough kind of day yesterday with the quality of the internet all over the country. I think was a problem yesterday. So they are at the back. Thank you guys for that. As always, our sponsor today, the best belts in the business again, it's Drew UK. You can find them again on the internet all over the place. They are the best golfing belts you can get. We've also got the Sergio Garcia single signed Masters flag, which is, again, it's a great prize, which is somebody's has given us. It's £10 to enter. Every penny is going to the NHS. You can just go to the SGH Sports and Events page on Facebook, and there is a link there. You can go onto there and donate. Your name will go into the hat, and we will pick a winner. I believe that's going to be next Friday, but when Hurdy comes on, he can tell us that one for definite. But that's the 2017 Masters flag signed by Sergio Garcia, which is the year he won the Masters. Again, we said it at the end yesterday. Don't forget to share and like our page as well, you know, because then you'll get the notifications to say that we are live. And as I say, we've had some great guests. We've got some great people set up for next week. But today, to start with, we've got Simon Hurd. Hurdy, how's things? Are you okay being out on your bike today?
Yeah, been on my bike with Kearney. Kearney thinks he's a machine, as you know, cousin. The electric bit kicked in and we zipped past him, so that was very amusing. But
so basically, you've been out cheating again, is what you're saying?
Correct and right.
Yeah. Absolutely. We've got Howard Clark with us as well. Clarky.
Hey,
always
Andy,
welcome
how
to see you. I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good here. Oh, North Yorkshire's still looking the same, but I'm looking at through a more refined glass now. It's a 2-mile radius of my home.
That's all. Yeah, well, it's a tough time for us all, Clarky. I think we're all seeing the same four walls all the time.
Yeah.
And our special guest today, Tony Dorigo. Thank you very much, Tony, for coming on. My old teammate. Tom, how are you doing? How's things?
Oh, good. More than welcome. Looking forward to actually doing something, which is good.
Well, instead of going out on your bike, you don't cheat though, do you? You go out on a proper bike and actually ride, not actually go on an electric one.
I don't know anyone that's got an e-bike until I've just heard that Hurdy's got an e-bike. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
He loves it. He absolutely loves it. He's just like, you know, he's. I can't say anything. I can't say anything about it at all. It's cheating, Simon. It's cheating.
Yes, I agree. Don't call me on my Sunday name. My Sunday name is Simon.
Exactly, because you're cheating. You know, we've got to bring it out. Tom, thank you very much for coming on. I always call you Tom. There is a story behind that. We'll come to that a bit later on down the line. So it is Tony, but, you know, for me, we're going to call you Tom. Tom, we're going to start from the very beginning. Your career coming over, a young Australian kid. How did you get your move over to the UK in the first place? How did it come about?
I think when I was growing up, I was always watching football, so we called it soccer out there. It was always match of the day or the big match at that time. It was 1 hour of English football. And it was fantastic, and I would watch that. There was no professional league out in Australia. That was the other problem. And I soon was better than everyone at my age group. And at 15, I was already in the first team, training with the big boys in the Australian League. And then Justin Fashanu actually came out and guest starred, would you believe? He had, I think, a 5-match stint. And I'd always wanted to go to England, but didn't know how, didn't know what to do. And I just picked his brain, and he was great. You know, he told me all sorts of things. He was going to get me a trial at Norwich. But he said, if you've got any problems, can't get in anywhere, I'll get you in at Norwich. So all I did was wrote 12 letters. I picked the top 12 clubs at the time. Leeds United weren't in those top 12 at that time. And the best ones was actually Aston Villa. And would you believe only one club replied, and that was Aston Villa. And they gave me a 4-day trial. So when I got that letter, my God, it was incredible. It was claret and blue on the front and said, I can come over. They're paying for nothing. I could only have 4 days, not the Friday. And get yourself over. Let us know when you're going to come. So me and my dad, we turned up in Birmingham.
And turning up in Birmingham itself on the first part of it, how did you feel going into Aston Villa? It's a big club in the 80s as well. How did you feel going in? Did you feel any pressure that I've got to perform because I've only got 4 days for this?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, I was a skinny 15-year-old kid. Mine was a skinny bloody 25-year-old, but I was even skinny. And when I got there, the difference between 15 and 16 and 17 is immense at that age. So I'm against full-time apprentices, and I'm a 15-year-old kid from Australia. And when I first got on that training pitch, I am chasing this ball, and I couldn't get a touch. It was ridiculous. I was head and shoulders above anything in Australia. I come to England, and I thought, wow, these kids these guys are fantastic. They're not kids; they're men already. They're all doing their weights and everything else. And slowly, each day, as each minute went past, I got closer and closer to them. And clearly, Villa saw something. But right, we'll give this lad another week, then another week, and that was it. They signed me after about 3 weeks, but I was too young, so I had to be a schoolboy, as they called it then. I had to go to school, so I went to inner city Birmingham school, Aston Manor. Oh my God! And I came over in October, November. It was the worst winter on record, and I thought, you can forget this. I'm bloody going back. It was honestly ridiculous. My feet were like ice blocks. Every time I played, I couldn't feel my feet. I used to go to bed with 2 tracksuits on because they wouldn't turn the bloody heating on. It was freaking ridiculous. So at that point, I'm thinking, I'm come to the glamour of Division 1 English football, and I'm going to a school in the backside of nowhere in the middle of Birmingham, and I'm freezing. It wasn't quite what I expected, but to be honest, when I got involved and watched the first team players and clean their boots, everything else, it was amazing. It really was.
And getting into the apprenticeship, we've asked a few people this. Going into your first day of apprenticeship, how did you find out about that? Did you find out that very quickly? Obviously, when you came over, they said, "Look, we're going to sign you as an apprentice into a professional form" at that point, or was it just a 2-year apprenticeship which you were given?
2-year apprenticeship. That was it. I had to prove myself. Fortunately, I think when I signed, I had the attitude that, there's 7 or 8 lads in the same year as me, and I think I'm the worst one. And I thought, right, I've just got to keep improving and doing everything that I can. I think within probably 6, 7, 8 months, I was the best one. And then at the end of the first year, I went back to Australia. And I've got to say, I thought, I ain't going back to England. So I went back, saw my mate. I'm playing golf. I was on the beach having barbecues. I'm thinking, hallelujah. However, my mum and dad said, no, come on. We'll come across. We'll sell up. We'll go over there. Because I was obviously very, very homesick. And so when I came back, everything just went really, really well. Then the club, fortunately, I said, right, I can become a pro 6 months early. So they gave me a professional contract at 17 and a half. So that was a big help. And
your first apprentice wage, what was it? We've had a 27, we've had a 32. I think we've had even higher than that as well, I think.
15. 15. A travel card. I could get anywhere with my travel card. Anywhere. It was fantastic. 15 quid. Then in the second year, it went up to 20 quid. But then I signed pro quickly, yeah.
So signing into pro, going into the first team, made your first team I think your first game for Villa was, I think you were 18, 1983, 84 kind of time. How did you get to know about you were going to be playing in the first team? Obviously, you've been playing in the reserves and building yourself up to that. But how did that call? Did you know beforehand, or did it literally just throw it on you on the day?
I knew beforehand. I was kind of getting closer and closer and better. And then I was training with the first team squad. And it was the last game of the season. They said, right, you're coming with us. You're getting some experience. You're going to be on the bench and away you go. So I got on that season. I think what was interesting at the time, though, was Aston Villa. It was their great team they won the European Cup with. So Peter Widd, Dennis Mortimer, Gary Shaw, Jimmy Rimmer, Alan Evans at the back. That team was breaking up. So they're all, aging. And I was one of the youngsters coming through. And that's what kind of gave me my chance. But, from then on, just to play at Villa Park, it was fantastic. The stadium, I think, is tremendous. The facilities were great. And it was everything that kind of, I dreamed of, certainly from Australia.
And who was it who took you under your wing? Because normally, a young kid coming into the dressing room, somebody takes you under the wing. Was there anybody in particular you remember giving you advice or taking you under the wing at that time?
Yeah, Colin Gibson. Colin Gibson was the left back at the time, and I played kind of left midfield. Then someone got injured on a pre-season tour. They put me back to left back, and that's it. Everything went well. But Gibbo in the end was great, and he got his move to Manchester United. So they sold him on, and I got him the side. Yeah.
So you had a good few years there, 87, 111 appearances at Villa. Obviously, things going well. Chelsea come calling. You go down to Chelsea in 87. Again, how did that come about? And did you think that at the time was a big move? Or, 'cause the first year wasn't the most successful year. No,
and the previous year at Villa, we really struggled. I think it was my third season there. We had a couple of managers, come and went. But what was really strange, in March, there was a transfer window. It was slightly different to it is now. There was a cut-off at the end of March. And I got a call from the chairman, Doug Ellis. And he said, right, Chelsea want to buy you. I'm picking you up in an hour. Let's go. And that was it. I'm a 21, 22-year-old guy. I think I was player of the year before. I could see myself being there kind of forever. And suddenly, they're saying that they've got to sell me. I said, well, why? He said, well, we want David Speedie, the striker. We couldn't score goals for Toffee. And the only way we're going to get him is if we give you to Chelsea. And I was just shocked. I was absolutely shocked. So I had about 10, 12 hours to digest all this and say yes or no. And it was the strangest thing. We went into the Post House Hotel at Heathrow, up to the second floor. And as I'm with Doug Ellis and our secretary, down the corridor is Ken Bates, Chelsea secretary, and David Speedie. It was like a standoff, like at the OK Corral. And we both walked 20 yards to each other and said, good luck, mate, and that was it. And then I walked straight into Bates' arms, and he walked into, oh, God. It was crazy. There's like 3-4 hours of trying to work all this out. And in the end, I thought, this is nuts. I've got, too little time to decide. So I said no. David Speedie said no. And that was it. We went back to our clubs. But that just got into my head at the time. Then Villa, we were struggling. We got relegated at the end of that year. And then Chelsea came in with an offer, and Villa said, yeah, we'll agree to sell you. But it was when Graham Taylor came, Aston Villa, his first day at the end of the season, and he got us all into this room and sat us down. And he was giving the big speech about, your blood needs to be running claret and blue, and if it's not, there's the door. And then he just shouted, and you, Dorigo, you can fuck off if you want. And he was pointing to someone else. Everyone was laughing. Williams, who kind of looked like me, everyone laughed. I just got up and walked straight out the door. And that was it. So that was how I got down to Chelsea. But I think it's interesting, a lot of time the fans look at things from a club point of view, and they think, why did that player leave? Well, sometimes it's the club that wants to move you on, for whatever reason they think. And for me, that was a big shock. And so, so I headed down to Chelsea, who wanted me, badly, which is nice.
Well, I think you just touched on a point there where I think 80% of players actually don't know the transfer, specifically in them days. I think now maybe a little bit more, but certainly in them days, you didn't actually know that you were going to get the transfer in the first place. And, when you've got your heart set on a place and you want to leave, it's a tough one. And to go to Chelsea, Villa's a big, Birmingham's a big city, going into the big smoke as well down in London. How did that kind of, I suppose, push your career forward even more? Because you obviously got into the England squads and so on at that point as well.
Again, things, unfortunately, we got relegated that year. But for me personally, I was getting in England squads and what have you. I think we then, the second division, the old second division, we won it by 16, 17 points. We won it by an absolute mile. It was that bad. I scored 7 goals. That's how bad it was. And what got me was that at Chelsea we had some great players. So Kerry Dixon, Gordon Durie, Pat Nevin, I think Graham Roberts from Spurs came, Steve Clark, the Scottish right back, Eddie Niedzwiecki, the Welsh goalkeeper. We had some really good players, but it was turmoil off the pitch. I can so many stories of how we got affected by Mr. Bates and his henchmen. It was just ridiculous. And I found that really frustrating because I wanted to win. It's about winning things, and you would have thought everyone is pulling in the same direction. At Chelsea, I never felt that at times. We were pulling all over the place. There was the start of one season. I never ever forget. The chief exec for Chelsea came down into the dressing room an hour and a quarter before the first game against Sheffield Wednesday to try and get us to sign documents that would agree for the club to take 700 quid out of our wages, which was going to be the tax on the free tickets we were going to get for the following season. Kidding me. Kidding me. So basically, we had an all-out war before the first game of the season. We were still in our suits 35 minutes to go before the game. We refused to play. So this guy's running back to Batesy. Batesy's sending him down with another message. He's running back there again. We told him to, so otherwise we're not playing. Finally, 35 minutes to go, it got screwed up. But you imagine the manager. He spent 6-7 weeks pre-season trying to get you all ready for this. And an outside influence can just go and blow it up. And that's how I felt. We had a great side. We could win 6 or 7 in a row, but we could then go and lose 6 or 7 depending on the circumstances. So that was frustrating. Yeah.
So I suppose on that one as well is a lot of people out there also see things going on in the background, and people always say it doesn't affect the players. You've obviously been in that situation. It obviously does affect the players. Yeah,
it does. But background. I mean, he would try and influence a lot of things. And I really felt sorry for the managers, to be honest. Certainly John Hollands at the time, was difficult. We won, it was a crazy fourth cup at the time called the Zenith Data Systems Cup. I only mention that because I scored the winner, 1-0, 76,000 people. That's a minor point. But we won this cup and we didn't even get a bonus all the way through, because it wasn't written into our bonus sheet because it was a new cup. So we managed to then get to the final. The manager had promised us 500 quid. We didn't realise it was out of his own pocket, but he promised us that. And basically said, yeah, don't worry, we'll pay you back later, and never did. So it was just ridiculous. We had captains going in to see Ken Bates to negotiate the next year's bonus structure and come out with less money than we went in. That's how bad it was.
So, well, we'll move on pretty quickly from Chelsea. Okay. You got your move then up to Leeds, 1.3 million. Leeds were kind of in a transition time as well at that point with Wilco, and obviously in the leagues and so on and so forth. 91, we all know what happened. 91-92 kind of season. Talk us through that actually coming together. How the move came up, and did you have any other options to go, and why did you pick Leeds in particular?
After 2-3 years at Chelsea, I was always trying to run my contract out basically, and I was off. I didn't want to sign again. Glasgow Rangers were trying all the time to sign me. Graham Souness was there at the time, and then I was going to go and talk with them, and then the Leeds come and said, "We want to talk to you." As well. I said, well, I'm off with England, and so I can't really, do anything. He goes, no, you come up to us first. You've got to come up here, as soon as you can. So basically, they showed they really wanted to sign me, and that was the exciting part. I thought, well, okay, I'll do this. I'll see what they've got to say. Then I'll go away and think about it. But to be honest, he just sold me, on the idea, just the passion, the players that I think Leeds already had. That they were trying to then bring in as well. There was certainly a plan, a structure, a togetherness. Bill Fotherby, my God, he could sell sand to Arabs. He was fantastic. I just felt wanted, and I thought, you know what, this feels right. And I didn't really want to go outside of the old first, England top league. So it felt right.
Coming in, let's talk about the championship year itself. Obviously, we know what happened at the end. How did that? Did you have that feeling within the dressing room at the start of the season? Look, we've got a great team here. There was Batty, Speed, Sterling, News, Strack, McAllister. They all reel off. Did you have a feeling at the start of that season that we've got a great chance here? We could actually do something.
I think I go into every season thinking we can do something. I have confidence. You try, you play a season to win. I don't play it to become 18th. I always have been with clubs that try and get to the top. And Leeds were no different. Did we think we'd finish top? Probably not at the start, but did we certainly aspire to that? Absolutely. That's what you do. It just then got on a roll, and there's no doubt we were going to be a good side, but you don't know how good, you don't know can you last the distance, the pressure, injuries, there's so many things to take into consideration. But I think once I had that first home game at Ellen Road, the noise was just phenomenal. And to be fair, the Chelsea lot can make noise. They've got great away support, but Leeds at home were amazing. And then, of course, you go away from home and it's the same because they're there again. They follow you everywhere. So I thought, my goodness, this is very impressive. Then I thought, can we produce the type of football that can win games but win a title? And it's very different. It is very different. But as the games progressed, you got that confidence. And I think we hit the ground running. We were really tight at the back. The midfield four, that had everything. That midfield four had absolutely everything in it. Whatever you needed, you could do. And that's what I thought we were very good at. That if you wanted to have a bit of a fight, if you wanted to get stuck in, we could do that. If you wanted to play, we could do that as well. And I think it's that balance that we had was impressive. And then we just kept looking short term and believing, not looking too far ahead. And suddenly you stick your head up and you're at the top.
We've talked about it before. What did the gaffer kind of come in and talk about a little bit? And Lukey, I think, was a big player in that dressing room because he'd been there and done it with Arsenal. He kind of brought a calming influence into the changing room. Mick Hennigan, we all know what Mick was like. He would give a different into the dressing room, a bit more comedy to a certain point, certainly through the weeks. What did the manager and certainly Lukey bring to that dressing room in a calmness way coming through that season, particularly at the end?
Yeah, it's interesting because John Lukic, as you know, you play with goalkeepers, and for me, they're all crazy. They're all the nutty ones, and John wasn't. He was so calm, he was almost horizontal every time he went out to play. But you're right, but as a defender, I knew exactly what Lukey was going to do every single time. His decision making, for me, was superb. If I played in front of Kiko Garcia, I would be quite concerned. Kiko has got a lot better, and well done, Kiko. I think you're doing great. 100% of the time, I knew what was going on. I think calmness is important. I think bringing it back to basics as well. I think you look at all other types of sport as well. When you bring it back to basics, it's still the same thing. So playing football is still about controlling that ball. It's still about winning that first tackle. It's still about passing the ball to your own player. Just because it might be in the Premier League or it might be in a World Cup or it might be on a Sunday Parks pitch, it's still the same thing. So get the basics right. So you always start with that. So I always think in my head, what's the most important first thing? Was to get on top of your opponent. So get a tackle in straight away. Run him the other way that he doesn't want to do, and get those basics, and then you go and help your teammates out once you've got your job done. Then good things happen, and I think that's what Wilco and the likes of John Lukic, brought it back to that you do your job, and after 19 minutes, wow, it's another 3 points. Back to the job again. Right, you do it again, it's another 3 points, and you keep going that way.
And there were some characters in the dressing room as well. Batty being, certainly one. Mel Sterling, we all know what Mel's like. He's a great character in the dressing room to have. But also we had Eric Cantona in that dressing room. What was Eric like coming into that dressing room? We had a bit of a reputation beforehand. What did Eric bring to that dressing room in that championship year?
I think Eric, I played against Eric actually for England under-21s against France under-21s, and he scored twice. We drew 2-2 and he scored twice. So I remember him then as this belligerent Lincoln striker that strolled around and did what he wanted. Then when he came to us, I thought he was a really good professional, and he trained very, very well. He couldn't speak much English. He learned as the months went on. When things got sour, he lost the ability to understand English. And speak. I don't know how that works, but he managed that. I've always found him very pleasant. I've met him, quite a few times since, and he's been great. There's no doubt that he needed a certain type of arm around him. That is really clear, as we know from what happened after that. But when he came in, he was just another option that we had to change things and produce something out of nothing, and we needed that, and he certainly provided the odd flash that was great.
Well, I can remember the one against Chelsea, I think, at home, when he went, he flicked it over in twice, Elliott and stuff, and, he definitely brought something different. The characters in the team, let's talk about Bats, because, a lot of people don't really know what Bats is like. Bats and Sterling, for me, were the characters when me being an apprentice, watching you guys and things at that point. Give us some stories about Bats and Sterling in particular, because I know you've got a handful of them.
I've got to be careful which one to say. Well, Bats, for me, Bats is the most underrated player. Because I got to say, there's certain times. I told a story last season about Pontus Jansson. Now, Pontus for me is a very, very good player. He can be a top-notch player. But when you're about to go to war and you're in the trenches, and I told the story that I've got Pontus to one side and I've got David Batty the other side, and I'm in the trenches and I'm ready to attack. The first thing that I do, I shoot Pontus Jansson, because I don't trust him. But Bats, I trust all day long. I mean, Bats, you'd have him alongside you, all the time. He was a fantastic player. Did he like football? No, of course he didn't like football. I grew with him a lot on England duty. So obviously I got to know him, better and better. With Leeds, it was Speedo. Those two were like chalking. They couldn't get enough of each other. But on England duty, I would do Bats, and Bats would get bored really easily. He doesn't want to watch football at all. He'd rather talk about motorcycle racing or whatever, which is great. But what I liked about Bats was that he actually did what he wanted to do. So he wasn't trying to conform to anything. Bats was Bats, and I went to we had a day off in New Zealand, and we had the option of playing golf or go fishing. So I thought, right, I'm playing golf. Look forward to that. That'll be great. Bats, what you doing? He goes, I'm going fishing. I thought, okay, I'll see you back in the room 7 o'clock at night, and then we'll go for something to eat with the team. He goes, yeah, fine. So I played golf. Had a great day. I came back. I met Bats. I walked in. Bats is in the room, and he's got his England tracksuit on, and they were dark blue, a bit of red and white. But the tracksuit, it was covered in fish guts. Honestly, there was blood. It was you must have, I don't know what he did, but he must have caught all the fish on his chest. And I thought, freaking hell, Bats, your tracksuit is flipping rotten. And he said, it's not my tracksuit, it's yours. So I'm going flipping nuts, and he's just nothing. Just puts his own on and walks straight out. I mean, okay, that's more flipping tracksuit then. It's crazy. I mean, in Australia as well, in training, he went up and he elbowed Keith Curle in the jaw and broke his jaw. So this is England training. He's just snapped his jaw. Curley's gone straight down in a heap. Bats moves away. We get Curly up. He goes to the hospital, gets it sorted out and everything else. So next day, we're back in the hotel, and Curly is on the table, through a straw stuff. And of course, we're all laughing away, thinking it's funny. Bat sits down. I said, Bat, go on, just go and say sorry, or go and say, something. Not a word. Not a dicky bird. Just eats that and walks straight out. And Curly, he shouldn't have done, he tackled me earlier, he shouldn't have done that. But okay, you don't have to break his jaw, do you?
Sounds about
what Bats wanted to do, but I tell you what, there's no one I'd rather have in my team.
I think he's one of the best players Leeds have had in that position in particular. Talking of being away in England duty and everything else, we'll talk about the World Cup out in Italy. What a team you had then, realistically, and how close did that team feel that they were very close to some greatness as well? Because I think that team really was the best I've seen in a World Cup as such.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that tournament was one where we just got better and better and better and better, because previous to that, we weren't great. We were struggling. We didn't come up with the right formula. And I remember there was a game at Wembley just before we left for the World Cup against the Czech Republic. And I got half a game, and that cemented my spot in the squad. And Gaza played from the start. And Gaza was fantastic. He scored, he kind of ran the show. And then the press were clamouring for him to be included in the side. And then the changes were made, 3 at the back and what have you, and away we go. But as a tournament, I don't know, but for me, playing a World Cup in Italy, because they are crazy for football, it was wonderful. It really was. And the way that we progressed through the tournament, the experiences I had, the semi-final, it was something that I'll never, ever forget. But even the kit, to me, looked fantastic. It was. I look back now at the pictures and what have you. It was a great experience for me. Yeah.
And you've been under some great managers, and Bobby Robson, it comes under, for me, one of the best managers, certainly England, but club manager as well. You look at Bobby itself. What was he like as a manager going into the World Cup, and just generally as the England manager?
Bobby Robson was a fantastic man. That's the first thing. So man management. So he really, for me, he really cared about how you played. He really wanted you to do well. And so we certainly connected on a human level. I think that's the most important thing. As a manager, he was wonderful. He had a coach in Don Howe, who was the kind of the link between the team and him. But Bobby got so many things wrong, and so many things kind of back to front. And names, my God, he couldn't work out names at all. And I'll never forget, Mark Hateley tells me a story. I played with Mark in the England squad just for a year or two in '88, but he tells me a story that in training, Bobby would keep calling him Tony Hateley. Of course, his dad is the famous Tony Hateley. And Mark would stop and said, Bobby, listen, my name's Mark, and my dad is Tony. Because everyone's laughing, that's it. So we carry on. And so Bobby, 5 minutes later, goes, Tony, run to the corner. And Mark goes, sake, my name is Mark. But anyway, it would carry on like that. He was all called Tony, obviously. Stuart and Neil Webb, well, they were one name. They were Stuart Webb. So if they were both playing, and he said, right, Stuart Webb, go take the free kick, they would have to both walk over to the free kick until he says, Stu, what are you doing? And then you'd know which one it was. This stuff was crazy. We played Poland at Wembley, and we worked out that their formation was 3 at the back. So he says, right, we're going to work on this in training, and afterwards we're going to have a meeting, and we're going to discuss how we can find the spaces in and around the back. Okay, great. So we all rock up. There's 22 of us in this meeting room, and Bobby Robson's there with the magnetic board. So Poland is sorted, England is sorted. And so he's moving this magnetic player away to say, right, one of the 3 centre-halves, if I move him away, I want the ball in that space. Hold on a sec, there's no space there. Try the other side of the board. So he moves it again, and there's a counter right in the way again. And he's going, what the hell is going on? Anyway, Don says, Bobby, Poland have got 14 players. You think, oh my God, this is the international manager of England. And you know what? We loved him even more for it. And that's the thing. Of course, he was doing just a bit absent-minded at times, but I love the guy. He was fantastic.
Brilliant. You went on to play in Torino, and I think H has got a story down when you were down in Torino as well. So I'm going to bring H in to have a quick chat about the Torino and I think it was the Italian Open, wasn't it, Howard?
Yeah, I think it was. Well, it had to be because it was the only tournament really that stood out in Italy in those days. I knew Tony from Leeds Players Lounge. A friend of mine used to get tickets for the Players Lounge, and Tony often said that he was interested in the golf. So I managed to get in touch with Tony, and I invited him to come and have a look at the golf tournament, the Italian Open. Where it was, I don't know, but obviously near Turin. And I got him onto the bus, and we went out on the bus. It was a 45-minute drive out to the golf course. So if you're going on the bus out, you have to get the bus back. So that was a good thing. But whilst we're on the bus, I said, who are you playing this weekend? And I don't know, I can't remember who it was that he was playing against. And I said, okay, fair enough. And I said, what about after that? I said, have you got any games? So-and-so. He says, oh, yeah. He says, the following week is against a team. He says, but it's already been arranged. It's going to be a draw. How the corruption, obviously, we hear about corruption in Italian football, but it was actually true, wasn't it, Tony?
Yes, unfortunately it was, and that's it was a huge, it was a huge shock to me. The story, what happened was the owners of the club, so the three owners, there was three of them at the time, and they came into the dressing room one day and says, right, we've got, I can't remember what the team was, but the team who got promoted from the previous year, I think they needed a draw, but this is like 8-9 games to go, and we were second or third, and three teams go up. And so the owners of the club had decided that a draw, a point for each, would work. And they came into the dressing room, and all the players sat down, and he started speaking and saying, well, we're going to have a draw. And I'm thinking, Jesus, I think my Italian has gone pretty good, but now I'm confused, because I'm sure we're going to have a draw. And I'm thinking, and it took me honestly a minute or two for it to dawn on me of what was being said. And I was just in shock. And then he went around the room, each player, and asked them, did they agree? And they go and see. Comes to me, I go, no. Everyone's laughing, crazy English and all this. And it carries on. And I'm going, this, and they walk out. And that's it. So this is like on the Wednesday or the Thursday. We play on the Sunday. And then the following day, the captain has flu. So he can't travel. It's 6 hours away by coach, by the way, this game. And then the right back then, unfortunately, he hurts his ankle. He can't play. And then Gigi Lentini, at one point the most expensive player in the world, who's built like a Greek Adonis, he's hurt his knee. Knee's a bit sore. He can't play either. So many players dropped out of this thing. Then finally, the centre half, and said, oh, my God, I can't go. My mother has dropped dead. I've gone, Jesus. I mean, this is just ridiculous. There are so many people dropping out. In the end, I had to play right back. That's how bad things were. I had to play right back. We got there. After 10 minutes of the game, the two centre-halves, the opposing centre-halves, went up on the halfway line for a ball, smacked each other straight down. Our centre-forward is clean through. He doesn't know what to do. He stops, he hesitates, toe pokes it, and it hits the corner flag. Ever. The guy scored 27 bloody goals. He's fantastic. Best finish I've ever seen. He toe pokes it. So they start whistling, the whole crowd. I came in at half time and I said to the manager, listen, my hamstring's sore. I can't play anymore. He goes, grande, Tony, grande. That's it. Off you come. We drew 0-0, just a flipping absolute disaster. We get back on the Monday. The mother of the right back is flipping resurrected. She's alive. She's not even dead. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And what was shocking about all that is that it was normal, it was a given, and I was the silly one. And what is wrong with you? And that's where you talk about, is it entrenched and what have you? It was. It was. It was like 10 games to go. Things would happen. Things would be agreed. And that's the way it was. And for me, that's just not right. I mean, I remember 4 games ago, we played another team. And Marco Materazzi played for Perugia. We played against a different team. And Perugia were paying the team we were playing against to beat us. I don't know how that works. But it was, I'm thinking, this is just nuts. No one wanted to pay me to play against someone else. I don't know what was going on there. It was a strange time, but I loved Italy. I loved the Italian football. I loved so much about it, but that bit for me was a real strange one.
And that actually wasn't that far away either. It was 97, 98 that as well, wasn't it? It wasn't actually... You'd think it'd be a lot further back in time than coming up into 2000s.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can imagine kind of what went on. Obviously, a load of clubs, got caught. But yeah, it was a pretty normal thing towards the end of the season to happen.
So was that the catalyst then to come back to England again and play back in the Premier League with Derby?
No, the catalyst was that they wouldn't pay my second year's contract, which was a lot of money. So I had to take them to court, good old Italians as they are. I was actually Player of the Year as well. It was like, Grande Tony, well done, but we can't pay you that much. Can we pay you 50%? I said, no. So I had to come back. And then Derby, Jim Smith and Steve McLaren took me on. I went 2 years there, and I have to say Steve McLaren, for me, was the best coach I've actually been under. He was absolutely fantastic. He really was. I had a great experience. It was good fun, but that's the first time I'd played for a club, I think, that the mentality was to finish kind of mid-table. And that was weird. For me, that's weird. It's always about trying to go out and win. And Derby were the first to say, no, we're going to lose that one, but we might get a point there. What do you mean we're going to lose that one? You don't ever say you're going to lose, do you? Yeah. So, but I had a good time there. It was good. So
that's kind of your career as such. I'm going to bring Hurdy in. Hurdy does a little quiz for all our guests coming on. There's some weird and wonderful questions I'm sure he's got. I know Goffey's still at the top, and he's desperate for somebody to beat Goffey. So I've got all faith in you here, Tom. So, Hurdy, I'm going to pass you over to yourself.
Thanks, mate. Tony, again, thanks for coming on, mate. First chat, absolutely. I could listen to you all day, and I'm sure Howard's the same. But I do a little quiz. Your first question's a little bit about back home. What is the river called behind Adelaide Oval ground and runs through the city? The River Torrens. Go on, son. There's
Get in there.
There's one down. Right, this
Do I own an e-bike? No.
1 out of 1. There's 100% set up to now. I've got one more question on Adelaide. What is the oldest German settlement in Adelaide called? I'm told it's really well known. Come on, son, hand off.
Tell you what, Goffey's coming off the top step here.
Anyone would think off Adelaide.
No, I read you move there for a bit. That's the only reason why I asked you, but well done, mate. Right, Patrick Bamford was bought from what club to Chelsea? What club did he go from to Chelsea for 1.6 million?
Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham Forest is correct.
We'll just come in on that one. The reason we know this is because Odgie talks about it every single week. So he tells us that he was his coach from Forest, bringing him to Chelsea. So he does talk about it a lot, does Odgie? So that's why we know that one quite quickly.
The good thing Odgie ain't a striker, so he couldn't say that he's got a goal instinct like him. But he's doing all right. Which club did Leeds United sign Lucas Radebe and Phil Amon Masinga from in South Africa?
Kaiser Chiefs.
Kaiser Chiefs is correct, and I'm sure you know the story behind the band they named themselves after that.
And actually, when we went out, would you believe, to South Africa for a pre-season tour the one time, and would you believe I got injured, my hamstring yet again. When they flew to the golf course, is it Sun City?
Sun City, yeah, we used to play there, yeah.
All the boys got a helicopter out there, and because I was injured, I could get treatment and not play golf. I'm devastated.
The thing about that as well, Tom, was that Lucas and Phil got carried off the plane pretty much all the way through customs, all the way through the airport, and onto the actual bus.
It was amazing, wasn't it? It was fantastic. Great to see. It really was. Yeah.
You know, they're well respected. Howard, did you play at Sun City Howard, did you play down there in the $1 million? You played once.
I did. I played once. It was one of those where there was a slow a slow gas appearing from my shoes. I led for 3.5 rounds, and it was $1 million for the first prize. And I had a tennis shoe blowout. I'm in the back nine. I think I shot 39 on the back nine. And Mark McNulty came back in 32. Langer did this, and somebody else did. I finished up 4th in the end and got about $40,000. But it was an amazing course. So long because I think I was still. It was 1986. I think I was still playing with woods and blades then, and ballatas. So the place played massively long. But what a golf course! What a golf course! The clubs that they're hitting now on these holes make it playable, but back then it was so difficult.
Yes, I remember playing there in '99 when they just changed the golf course, and we used to play the Dimension Data there. And I remember coming off the golf course. Yeah, my dad said to me, "How did you play?" I said, "Dad, that's the best round of golf I've ever shot. I shot 69. I think it was 2nd or 3rd after the first round." And he said, "How's that the best round?" I said, "The course is 7,500 yards long. You know what I mean? I mean, of course it's at altitude."
There's one little one story. Tony will like this because being a golfer, you'll know how order makes everything in place. Well, the 9th hole, one day there was a car for an eagle, for the first eagle. And I'm playing with Langer. I actually played with Langer 4 days in a row. It was the slowest week in my life. But we played this one round, and they moved the tee up about 45, 50 yards at the 9th, so everybody could go for the green. And the 9th, as people may or not know, it's an island green, all but a little runway off towards the 10th tee. And what a picturesque hole. Big green, massive green for a par 5, which you'd expect. And I've hit a smashing drive, and I've just run into the edge of the rough. And I'm thinking, well, I should really go for it. I said, what yardage we got? He says, 172 to the flag. I said, 172? He said, yeah. He said, it's only 150 to the front. I said, we get there easy. I said, with 7-iron, because the lie was pretty dodgy. And I hit a 7-iron, got it onto the green, but I'm 50 feet from the hole. Langer hits his shot a little bit further than me into the centre of the green, still 40 feet from the hole. Lanny Wadkins was the 3rd member of the group, and he had it to about 20, 25 feet. So we're all three on for a shot at an eagle. Langer's caddy came over to me and says, I think we're away. I said, Pete Coleman it was. I said, Pete, have a laugh. I said, I know what you're playing at. I said, I can see the numbers ringing round in your eyes. I said, just have another guess. Anyway, Bernhard comes over. He says, I think I am away. I said, Bernard, I said, please. I said, so Lanny, who's away, please? He says, you are, Clarkie. I rolled it straight in the cup for a 3. Langer and his caddy were absolutely throwing up and laughing all the way to their putts because they knew what was going to happen. And it was so funny. But I wanted a 5,000, 6,000 pound car for an eagle. poor old Lanny, he was the closest. But he said, I should have picked Bernhard, shouldn't I? Yeah.
Right.
Good moment. Brilliant course.
Last question, Tony. So hopefully you get 5 out of 5. Name the top 6 as we stand in the championship now.
Oh, blimey.
Leeds.
We've got that one. Yeah, we've got that one.
Fulham. Leeds, West Brom, Fulham.
Yep. Now it gets difficult.
It does. You have to be in order.
You don't have to get them in order, mate. No.
Brentford.
Yep.
Forest.
Yep.
Oh God.
No, it's tough.
This is flicked between a couple, hasn't it, this one?
Yeah, it has, yeah. That's why I did it.
Jeez.
I'd say Bristol City, me.
Bristol City? No, I'm going...
They flicked, that's what I mean. We'll take it from Ernie's nod that it's not.
No, it's not Preston, is it? Bloody hell. Can't think.
It could be Preston.
Go on, Preston.
Preston is 6R6. Go on, son. Well done, mate. That's impressive. You know, I was reading about it this morning when Radibi and Phil Masinga came across. They weren't really that interested in Radibi. It was more Masinga when they came across from the third quarter minutes. It was kind of, he was a tag along. He was the kid at the back, wasn't he? It was amazing how it changed, because I think Phil came. He played a couple of seasons, then he was gone, and he was a lovely player, but he didn't quite do what Lucas has done, as we know, Tony.
You're absolutely right. And when they came over, I could see, it brought back memories. When I first came over, they were freezing. Those two were and fortunately, Lucas always had a smile on his face, so it doesn't matter what happened, he would smile, whereas Phil, he wasn't smiling much. He was just... they were two great guys. They really were.
Yeah, I can remember them first seeing snow for the first time, which was just like the faces on them was absolutely, honestly, it was a picture. It was a picture. A really good story about Phil. It was a reserve game, and I'm playing right back, and I'm playing a ball down the line, and Phil's making a run across. He just keeps running and keeps going down the tunnel, and it's like nobody notices apart from me. Because obviously I'm aiming for him, and he just keeps running, goes straight down the tunnel, and he comes back out again and just runs straight back on the pitch. So nobody's seen anything. No, the manager's not seeing it, the coaching staff not seeing it. There's only really me who's seen it, and I've gone, Phil, where did you go? Needed a shit. And then he'd run off, gone to the toilet, come back on, and started playing again. Nobody noticed at all. The two guys were...
David Batty did the same thing in Wolves in a pre-season. He just walked off straight off the pitch, coming back 3 minutes later. Actually, Lucas playing golf. Oh, God, we went to a Rudding Park.
I was in his group. There was me, you, and him, I think.
Oh, God. I was in the group behind, and you guys were on the tee, and it was raining, and it was a bit wet. And Lucas hadn't played golf before, and he took this almighty swing. The club come out of his hand, it circles, goes straight in the middle of this lake, but it wasn't deep. the handle was sticking up. Next thing, Lucas gets undressed, starts wading through the middle of this lake to get the goddamn club. It was no good anyway. It didn't work. He shanked it to the right.
He borrowed the clubs, and he waded in. It was the par 3 over the water at the bottom. Honestly, some great times with them two guys. God rest his soul. Phil is, but Lucas is a true gem. It's a true gem. AJ, we've got AJ down in the bottom right hand corner now. AJ's going to come in. Tom, just a few questions from Facebook, I believe. So AJ, over to you.
Tony, good morning. How are you?
All good, thank you. It's afternoon, but don't worry.
Close. Mate, I don't know if it's Friday, Monday, what is it?
Exactly.
Tony, Alex asked, who was technically the most gifted player that you played against and who you played with?
The one I played with, for me, it's pretty straightforward. It's Paul Gascoigne. Gaza, I played under 21s with Gaza, and then up in the full squad as well. And when you have the best players in the country together training, and you see a player that has more time, more space, more vision than anyone else, that's impressive. And he did that from day one as well. So certainly he was amazing. Against, I think Van Basten, Stojkovic from Yugoslavia. These players, they seem to glide across the ground. They have a yard or two of time and space in their head before anyone else can see it. And that's when you're playing with the best players in the world. They still have that. So those sort of players are amazing.
And I'm going to ask you, as a player, when you looked at the opposition's team sheet and you saw one of these amazingly gifted players, did you think, or did you think, great, he's not in the team or he's injured? Did it change how you looked at or approached you again?
No, you had to think of it as a challenge. And, because if you ever play reserve football in front of 50 people, that mentally is difficult. When you're in front of 50, 60, 70,000 people and you've got someone really good against you, it's even better. I remember one year the Manchester United winger, Andre Kanchelskis, was ripping everyone apart. And we were going to play Leeds, playing Manchester United at Ellen Road. And he had one of those match interviews, on the whole page. They asked these strange questions. And one of the questions was, who is your most difficult opponent? And Andre put down me.
Brilliant.
And I'm thinking, well, that's stupid, because I'm going to flip and have you now. And I did. I remember when I played against the Netherlands, England versus Netherlands, I was up against Mark Overmars. So I'm thinking, Jesus, he is quick, right? So every time he got the ball, I'm snapping at his heels and what have you. After an hour, his number comes up. He's off the pitch. So I'm thinking, oh, thank God, I can now relax. This other guy comes on, and the only thing that Graham Taylor said about this guy was, watch out, he can run the 100 metres in 10.2. I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got a fresh right winger coming on who's flipping like Usain Bolt now. So it's a challenge rather than worried about it.
Brilliant. Tony, we've had some guests on over the last couple of weeks, and normally most people are sitting in their offices or their rooms, and they normally have some amazing pieces of memorabilia on the wall. I noticed that's not quite the case for you. In fact, my daughter, who watches this religiously, came in 5 minutes ago and said, if you'd like to buy that, £39.90.
Actually, that's quite funny. You see that on the wall there? My partner Claire actually did that. It's an original.
This one's only $39.99, mate. So if you'd like to buy it, all proceeds to the NHS. On a serious note, Tony, what is your John asked, what is your most favourite and most treasured piece of memorabilia?
My most treasured piece of memorabilia. You look at the medals and all that. Yes, they're very, very important. But one bit for me that touched me quite a lot was I played in the World Cup playoff for the third and fourth place playoff in Italy in 1990. And we played against Italy. I played left wing back, and the player I played against, the right wing back, was the Italian captain Giuseppe Bergami. And so me and him had a 90 minutes duel against each other. Unfortunately, we lost 2-1. At the end of the game, we all went down the tunnel, and everyone started to swap shirts and whatnot. And I am one of the last ones because I'm soaking up the atmosphere, and it was just amazing, great experience. I'm walking down, and I remember one or two of the players going up to Giuseppe and saying, can we swap shirts? And he's going, no. But I didn't notice anything. And he's looking, I thought, at someone behind me. And he starts to wave and call him over. I look behind me. There's no one behind me. It's just me. Something, and he's waving at me. So I walked 40, 50 yards up to Giuseppe, and he said, can we change shirts? And he wouldn't have known who Dorigo was because I was only subbing the semi, I knew who he was, but he wanted my shirt because he played against me. And I thought that was fantastic. So we swapped shirts. Then he said, what about shorts? Should we swap shorts? I said, well, yeah, mate, no problems at all. I took my shorts off. Then he said, socks. Should we swap socks? I said, absolutely, let's go socks. Then I thought he was going to do his underwear, so you can forget that. However, thank you very much. And that's my most treasured kit because, the captain of Italy was the one that wanted to swap with me, which I thought was a lovely thing to do.
Brilliant. Well, talking of Italy, the next question I've got that leads brilliant on to the next question. Carl asks, when you hear Nessun Dorma, does it make you cry or want to throw your radio out the window?
I have great memories from that, but the minutes after the semi-final in that dressing room there, Chris Waddle, Piercy, trying to console them, it was impossible. The grown men just weeping away. It was just awful. It really was. And if they actually bloody stuck it in, it would have been the final. But anyway, let's
Brilliant. Derek, thank you ever so much. That's got some great answers there, and I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Tom, we've got 2 more questions which we always ask everybody who comes on as well. So first one would be, what person would get you into the most trouble on a night out?
What person would get me into the most trouble on a night out? Yeah, I suppose Mel would get me into a lot of trouble. Fortunately, I've matured and I can ignore him now and then. But if I didn't and hadn't, it would be Zico. That boy is just, uncontrollable.
And your golfing 4-ball, what would that be? An ultimate golfing 4-ball. Know you like your golf, dead or alive?
To go around and have a chat with Obama. I really like Barack Obama.
My wife likes him. Yeah.
Greg Norman is actually another one of my kind of heroes growing up, because he's got these amazing Ferraris as well, I hear, which is pretty cool. And you know what? Let's go with Howard as well, because Howard, I'll play with you again, because do you remember as well we swapped shirts, and I have got a Ryder Cup shirt that you very, very kindly gave me many years ago. So that is much treasured as well for me. So love to have another game. There we go.
Well, we'll definitely have to get a 4-ball going. No problems whatsoever.
No, you're not playing, Andy. You're sorry.
Well, there's a 4-ball here. I've just got us. Never mind AJ and everyone else. You know, never mind them lot. You know. Yeah. Tony, thank you. We could have talked forever. I think everybody's really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for coming on, spending an hour with us. It's really appreciated. Thanks as always to the SJ Sporting events. You know, again, get on their Facebook page, have a look, get us liked. We'll get then the notifications for you for all these events which we do, and we are trying to do one most days through the lockdown. Absolutely. Great guest again this week. Great guest coming up next week, which we will come to you on Monday, I think. We're going to do a little bit of a 10-minute thing on Monday just about the guests which we've got and also the guests which we've had. That's going to be me, Hurdy, and most likely AJ in there. So we will be back on Monday at some point. Thank you again also to the Simply Video guys behind the scenes, streaming this, which has been fantastic as always. Thank you to our sponsor, which is the best belts in the business. You know, Drew UK, Hurdy's company there. You know, again, the fact they are fantastic belts. And also we've got to thank Muffy as well for the Sergio Garcia flag. It's the Masters. It's framed. It's a great piece of memorabilia. We'll talk about memorabilia. It's a great piece of memorabilia from the 2017 Masters. We're trying to raise as much money as we can for the NHS. Every penny of it is going to the NHS as well. You know, so please get onto our site again, £10 to enter. You can enter as many times as you want. You can be anywhere in the world as well. And we will put that into the draw, which I think potentially is going to be next week late on. Thank you to our guest again, Simon Hurd, as always. Hurdy, thank you. Clarky, thank you very much for coming and joining us, as always. And Tony, again, thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate it. We'll see you back on Tuesday for somebody else to come onto this show. And everybody, stay safe and have a good weekend.
Cheers, guys.
Last word, last thing I've got to say. You'll never beat Dorigo.
You would now on your bike, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'll be back on and all that kind of stuff.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Tom. Speak to you soon. Cheers.